Hello everyone and welcome back. One of you lovely viewers suggested that I should cover a missing person case on my channel and maybe ask some questions at the end of the video. So today, I decided to do exactly that. I'm going to talk about the disappearance of Christina Calayca. Make sure you stick around till the end of the video because I'm going to ask you guys some questions. And I will read your comments in the next case file video. As always, grab your flashlight and let's step into the darkness together. In August 2007, 20-year-old Christina Calayca vanished during an early morning jog while camping in Rainbow Falls Provincial Park with a cousin and two church group friends. By 6:30 a.m. on Monday, August 6th, Christina and Eddie, one of her friends from the church group, decided to go for a run. They split up along the way and Christina never made it back from her run. She was last seen wearing a blue hooded sweatshirt, a purple striped shirt, black pants and white running shoes. The park is located roughly 200 kilometers east of Thunder Bay, Ontario. The small park was typically busy for a long weekend, with about 3/4 of its 197 sites booked. Most of the campers were locals, but some of the visitors were from much farther away, staying in the park while they attended Terrace Bay's Drag Fest, an annual celebration for car enthusiasts that attracts 10,000 people. There were also a few campers who were stopping temporarily as they traveled along the Trans-Canada Highway, which runs right through the park. Because Rainbow Falls is located so far away from southern Ontario, very few people from that region actually choose the park as a destination. At about noon on Sunday, August 5th, a green Honda CR-V pulled up to the gates of Rainbow Falls Provincial Park. Inside were Christina Calayca, her first cousin Faith Costello, aged 20, and two mutual friends from an organization called Youth for Christ, Edward Mig, aged 20, and Joe Benedict Reyes, aged 19. They checked into campsite 72. But when they discovered it was on the main park road, they arranged to switch to a more private spot, campsite 88. They'd left Toronto at about 10 a.m. the day before. There was a slight delay when they ran out of gas somewhere near Wawa, and a guy named Ian stopped to help them out. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision to head to Rainbow Falls, Eddie Meek says. Originally, they had planned to go to Montreal, but that didn't work out. Pictures taken by Christina and her friends on the day they arrived at the park reveal nothing out of the ordinary. There's a snap of Christina with her cousin Faith, both of them behind huge sunglasses, posing in front of their tent at 2:25 p.m. Another shows Christina an hour later in a Lucky in Love yellow t-shirt, a plate of picked-over pasta in front of her on a picnic table, and JB glancing her way. They decided to have a nap at around 6:30 p.m. The intentions to sleep for only half an hour, but Eddie's alarm failed to rouse them. They woke up at around 10:30 p.m. They drank and ate the rest of the supplies in front of the fire. At 11:59 p.m., Faith and Christina were sitting close together, legs touching, smiling into the campfire. And then, at 12:08 a.m., the last picture of Christina was taken. In it, she is leaning over a frying pan full of the same pasta they had for lunch, fork posed, while Eddie and JB also dig in. She is wearing a grey hoodie, black pants, and white running shoes. The group stayed up until about 3, when Eddie, feeling stinky from the long car trip, decided to go for a shower. He walked over to the comfort station and returned by about 3:30 a.m. The campsite was quiet. He assumed everyone was asleep. But when he crawled into the tent, Christina whispered, "Let's go swimming." She then said that she was kidding and they both fell asleep at around 4 a.m. Christina and Eddie woke at 6:30 a.m. and since Christina needed to use the bathroom, she asked him to take her to the comfort station. They then decided to go for a run. Christina and Eddie discussed a route they wanted to take, and Eddie was keen on running along the highway. But Christina wasn't interested in running on the highway and said she wanted to remain in the park. They approached the gates and Christina turned towards the falls road. Without establishing a firm time for meeting up again, she and Eddie separated. He last saw her walking down the road, heading for the falls. Eddie ran along the highway toward the park's smaller western section, then turned back. He was gone perhaps an hour. The others were still not up, so he sat in a chair and waited. Eventually, at 9:30 a.m., both Faith and JB were up. By now, Christina had been gone for about 3 hours. Still, nobody was worried. They ate and then decided to look for her. It was now 11 and they were getting a little worried. Eddie and JB drove up the road Christina had taken until they reached the parking lot near the falls. Eddie took the trail when he last saw Christina, but found nothing. Eddie and JB returned to the campsite and wrote Christina a note and marked the time, 1:45 p.m. Then all three got into the car, planning to drive to Roseport, thinking they'd find Christina at the other end of the trail, waiting for them. They acquired some maps from the gate attendant. He told them that there was no way Christina could have made it as far as Roseport, 12 kilometers away. He advised them to contact the Ontario Provincial Police, and then the attendant began making calls. Park personnel immediately started a preliminary check roughly 7.5 hours after Christina was last seen by Eddie. The search was on. At 4 p.m., Christina's mother, Elizabeth Rutledge, got the devastating call from the Ontario Provincial Police that her eldest child was missing. After a mad scramble to arrange flights, Elizabeth arrived at Rainbow Falls on Tuesday, where she was met by the police constable, Keith Jones. Within hours of learning that Christina had disappeared, the Ontario Provincial Police Northwest Region Emergency Response Team had launched into full-scale search mode. Everyone believed that if Christina was in the park, they'd bring her home. The dogs came out first and they searched the area immediately, but sadly, no scents were detected. Next, the Ontario Provincial Police began searching both the Rainbow Falls Trail and the rest of the Cascade Isles Trail. They were conducting what is known as a contour search, in which teams of 3 scoured the trail and either site. Over the next few days, they would cover the entire 53-kilometer length of the Cascade Isles, working on the assumption that they were seeking a live responsive target. The teams called Christina's name until they were hoarse, listening, waiting for her to answer. She never did. Meanwhile, other searchers were focused on an area that extended 8 kilometers out from the spot where Christina was last seen. One of them searched not only the falls itself, but also the river running down to Lake Superior. It found the only possible leads in the entire 8-kilometer search area: a pair of socks, probably too large to be Christina's, near a 35-foot deep swimming hole below the falls, and a footprint. but neither lead proved useful. Most of the people who get lost in the wilderness find their own way out, but some do not. To get lost in the bush is one thing, but to get lost in a well-signed, fully staffed car camping park is quite another. It is very difficult to get lost in a park full of people. By the fourth day of the search, an Ontario Provincial police plane was using a forward-looking infrared camera in the pre-dawn hours to search for anything alive. It picked up plenty of bears, but not Christina. After 17 days and one of the longest searches in the region's history, the Ontario Provincial police officers had to shake their heads and admit that this was one of those times. One of the unlucky. Christina was still out there. Maybe. What actually happened to Christina is a mystery, but many people who took part in the search believe that she did not disappear in or near the park. If she had, they say, she would have been found within a few days. At the very least, there would have been signs that she had been there. But there weren't any. The most common theory about Christina's disappearance, and the most disturbing one, is that she was abducted. A clever predatory sociopath slowed his car, asking for help, and Christina, ever trusting, believed him. The Ontario Provincial Police has insisted all along that there was no sign of foul play and that this remains an open missing person case. When there's no trace left of someone, one final theory always emerges. Maybe the missing person just doesn't want to be found. Maybe the person ran away to start a new life. But Christina wasn't that type of person. She was always putting everyone else first and above her. Her mother Elizabeth believes Christina was abducted or murdered in the park. To this day, no trace of Christina has been found. She vanished. And now, my dear listeners, it's time for you to tell me what you think that really happened to Christina. Did Christina run off to start a new life? Did an animal attack and kill Christina while she was trail running? There were a lot of bears and wolves in the area. Did Christina's friends or cousin have anything to do with her disappearance? Did a killer happen upon Christina during her run in the woods? Was she kidnapped by a sociopath? Could something else have happened? Leave your comments below and I'll read them on my next case file video. Until then, have a beautiful day and stay safe.